Hello, welcome to Abdow Avenue. I'm Jason Abdow, and today we're going to be talking about the 5th studio album from Arcade Fire, Everything Now. Now, a little bit of insight before I go deep into the album. Arcade Fire is without a doubt one of my favorite bands of all time, and I would actually consider their first album, Funeral, to be my favorite album of all time. So, needless to say, I'm a fan. And I had extremely high expectations for this album, and it was probably my most anticipated album of 2017. So, obviously I have to talk about it, and here's the thing. I'm sure I won't be alone in sharing these feelings about this album, but look, I'm just gonna cut to the chase with this. This album's bad. It's really bad. Much worse than anything that the band has come out before. I mean, I love their first 4 albums up until this point. I know people have their problems with Reflector and Neon Bible. Some people don't think it's as good as other albums, whatever. I know they're not all perfect albums or anything, but at least each of them had like a personality. Each of them were definitely Arcade Fire albums. Even Reflector, I would say, even if they did change their style up a bit, to that more electronic dancey style, I think they still did it really well. But now on Everything Now, they're kind of continuing with this electronic style. They moved into a more disco sound, which I'm not against bands changing their sound whatsoever. And I think it should be celebrated. Obviously, some of the best albums of all time have come from bands changing their style. Just look at something like Kid A by Radiohead, or honestly the list could go on and on. But Everything Now just kind of takes away everything that made Arcade Fire so special to begin with. And we gotta start with the lyrics, and the lyrics on this are inexcusable. These songs are almost entirely underwritten, or feel very dumbed down. It's especially considering the type of album this is. This is a very critical album, especially of current youth culture and millennials and technology, and that's fine. Obviously, it's something worth discussing, and people have discussed it on album before. Arcade Fire has discussed very similar things on Reflector and Neon Bible especially, and they did it so much better than they did here. And I just don't know how they could pass off these lyrics. Just look at the 2 songs called Infinite Content. There's Infinite Content and the Infinite _ Content, and it's just 2 songs based off of like this one line with like, infinite content makes us infinitely content. And it's just one of those really fake deep lines that they just seem really proud of, because they've named 2 songs on the album after this. They named their tour after this. I mean, and it just feels so lazy. And even, look at a song like Chemistry. That song, it's not just poorly written, it's just like an unrequited love kind of thing, and it just feels so childish. Like, it's just so not for adults, I feel like they really were trying to pan to a younger audience while also critiquing a younger audience, and it made no sense to me. And not only are the lyrics bad on Chemistry, but the production, the random horns that are like farting all over the background. I mean, this song's a total mess, and then it kind of like goes off into like a dad rock theme, and it is so bad. And even the singing, it's, Arcade Fire, though, they've been very competent singers. Win Butler and Regine, they have always impressed. But for some reason on this album, you really can't even understand most of what Regine is singing. Her enunciation skills are just in the toilet. Like a song like Electric Blue, I just cannot listen to, except I guess we get a little break from Win, who, while I traditionally love his style of music, and his style of singing, he sounds so bored. Just look at a song like Good Goddamn, or pretty much any other song on this album for the most part. He sounds so uninterested and just so dead. I couldn't believe how flat he was sounding. And the production, you know, if all this were to make up for them focusing on production, that was great. I wouldn't say I'd give it a pass, but I guess I would understand. But the production is basic at best. It's nothing that I have not already heard from many other bands this year. They're not LCD Sound System, and I just don't know what they were trying. Because the production all over this is weak, uninteresting, and uninspired. And the best thing I can say about a lot of this album is some of it is pretty catchy. There's two songs actually that I will say I genuinely like. The first being the actual title track, Everything Now, not the two continued versions that they have at the beginning and end of the album, but the actual lead-off single, Everything Now. I did actually really like that song. It gave me hope that this album would be good. I don't even think that's one of their best songs, but it's definitely the best song on here. And, you know, the production I feel like has actually got a few layers to it. I kind of like the electronics going on it, the flute, I believe that is, whatever wind instrument that is in the background. It makes it really interesting, and I think it makes it a pretty enjoyable listen. And then, almost at the end of the album, we have the song Put Your Money on Me. And that's just another really catchy song. The lyrics are a little meh. They're kind of focusing on the kind of themes of that, how money can impact relationships. It is kind of deep, and I feel like if Arcade Fire was writing like they used to, this could have been a really good song. But instead it's just good enough, I guess. And I guess Signs of Life is pretty catchy too, the hook anyway is. But the song ultimately really doesn't do anything for me. Even when they try to talk about really deep issues, they have two songs on here dealing with suicide. Creature Comfort and Good Goddamn. And look, obviously suicide is a scary thing. And you know, especially right in the wake of Chester Bennington passing away, having taken his own life, and obviously completely unrelated because this was recorded months before. But look, I get it. And I think it's an important thing for artists to talk about. But the song Creature Comfort, it really, I just feel like the writing was just so simplistic on that, and it made me feel so weird hearing this like really upbeat production, like disco-y production, with these lyrics about this person who's committed suicide. And I feel like the band is trying to make a statement here, but I don't know, it doesn't really come across that well for me. And same for Good Goddamn, it's a slower song, but I mean, like I said, Win Butler's singing is atrocious. It sounds like a song that the Black Keys would have thrown out for their last album. I mean, it is just not a good song. And this one's written more from the person allegedly contemplating suicide's perspective. And look, I think there would have been something really special there, something really, really emotionally impactful, and I just felt none of it. And even on the song We Don't Deserve Love, you know, I guess they're trying a little harder with their writing on this one. It's the longer, slower kind of ending ballad before the last song, which kind of just loops it back to the beginning. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Win singing is just not keeping me interested. And you know, at first I wanted to say I liked the song because it just felt like they were trying a little harder, but it's not memorable. I can't remember it. I've listened to that song at least 6 or 7 times now, and it does not stick with me even a little. And the only moments that are really sticking with me, besides for those 2 good songs, are bad moments. It's just a bad taste that's left in my mouth after this. I could not believe how steep of a quality dip this album went for the band between Reflector and this. I know people had their problem with Reflector, but this isn't a trash league of its own. Reflector just felt misguided at times. It felt a little overly pretentious maybe. But this is just actively bad. This is just an album where they are missing the mark completely. They're not just missing the mark, but they're shooting for the wrong target and missing that. I mean, that's honestly how I feel about this album. And it makes me really worried about the band's future. I still, obviously those first 4 albums are, held at the highest regard for me. But this really just kind of shows a really weak side of the band, and just shows that they're very much vulnerable to making bad music, which is the case for, I'd say, about 85% of this album. So it pains me to say this, because Reflector, which is my least favorite album by them, I would still give an A- to. But this is a C- for me, and honestly, if you're an Arcade Fire fan, you've probably already heard it, and you probably feel pretty similar to how I feel. There's nothing really redeeming about this album as a whole. That whole infinite content loop thing that they do, where they loop the last song to the first song, that's been done before, and I get it, it has some, meaning to it, It's everything's in infinite content, we're just constantly getting entertainment, but then you're kind of also saying that this is part of that, kind of mind-dulling content. And all I've got to say is, if you want to listen to millennial bashing, that actually sounds like it's not written for an edgy 13-year-old who feels like he's better than everyone. Check out Father John Misty's last album, because he just did an album where he talked about very similar themes in an infinitely better way, in an infinitely more creative way. And this album just completely fails to do anything unique for me. And I just cannot believe what I heard from this album, and I hope to God that this album, and I hope that Arcade Fire takes all these harsh criticisms this album has been getting to heart, and just improve, because they can't do something like this again. They really can't. So, have you listened to Everything Now by Arcade Fire? Do you agree with me, disagree with me? If you disagree, let me know why. I'd love to kind of get a deeper insight on why other people might enjoy this album, because, I really wanted to like this album, and it pains me that I don't. So, like and subscribe, follow me on Twitter, links all in the description, and thank you for watching.